All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you're having an awesome day today. As many of you and many in my audience will already know, Illuvium Private Beta 2 has just dropped. So many of you are probably playing that right now, and you're going to catch this later. But let's just say that you guys got to check this out. This is a really, really interesting project. Many of you have probably already seen that. I've talked about it on my Twitter. Just going to double check that the stream is working because it's being a little bit dodgy on me right now. Yep, so it's live. Okay, so it's definitely working. So I want to introduce Mr. B from Mr. Tim B, right? From Party Finance. Now, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of what Party Finance is, but my understanding of it is it's a really interesting DeFi protocol that is going to allow people to talk to each other and participate in DeFi as a team. This is something we haven't really seen much of before. And I really like, there's so many aspects to this, but some of the big ones for me are the ability to get my friends into DeFi with them barely putting any effort in. I can do all the effort stuff for them, which is going to be really crazy. So we'll delve really deep into that, especially since the staking just launched today. So we'll talk about that a bit as well. Did you want to introduce yourself, Tim, kind of what your role is in the company and what is Party Finance to you?
Yeah, totally. My name's Tim. I founded the company about like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. Basically, I was super interested in DAOs at the time and like the most efficient way to run these governance sort of organizations. And one of my best friends works for Gemini. Now he works for Public. He's like super into like political science. So we'd have these super long discussions just about like the future of governance on chain. What does that even look like? And so we kind of drew up this idea of like human oriented liquidity pools. I call them like human liquidity pools for humans. So like instead of you just depositing a token and your value is rewarded based on how much you deposit into a liquidity pool, your value is rewarded based on how much you deposit into a DAO. And then because of that, you get an LP token back that allows you to have like a fully liquid experience inside of the DAO. Whereas other DAO platforms currently, they use something like called a multi-sig. I'm sure we're familiar with multi-sig, but usually that's the foundation of DAOs. So we said, like, let's just take that to the moon and make DAOs on steroids. So that's kind of like what I did. And we sort of created that over the last year and a half. But before that, I worked at Riot Games. I was like a market researcher there, helped with the launch of Valorant, the like super famous FPS game nowadays. And then after that, I did consulting in DeFi for a while, helped with growth strategy for a bunch of different projects. So I eventually like locked in on this topic. I said, I'm going to go hard on that.
Yeah. I'm involved with quite a few DAOs, and I like the idea of pushing DAOs to the next level where the community genuinely gets to participate in the DAO on another level altogether. So in my experience, it's been like voting in people or using your NFTs to vote on proposals and things. And then they invest their tokens, which are kind of your tokens, being you're a part of that ecosystem, however which way they want. So being able to hold the tokens yourself and then everyone kind of gets a piece of that is really, really interesting. And getting to like directly vote, because you guys have something called a democracy system as well. And we'll get into that later. That's one of my later questions. But yeah, there's so much to break down. So the first thing I want to talk about is how does your token work and kind of what is it for within the ecosystem? Also, you rebranded and relaunched your token recently. Do you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, so we initially launched the platform, the company, the project under the name Polka Party, which was like a Polkadot ecosystem sort of project. If you've followed the Polkadot ecosystem, you've seen the ups and downs that come with the development of like a truly multi-chain ecosystem. And we really just couldn't play towards that anymore. So we just said, okay, we'll use the existing stuff out there. And when that happened, you kind of have to drop the Polka prefix. So that we dropped the Polka prefix at the beginning of this year, and like went to Partyfi, and we've just been kind of teasing this rebrand for the token, which is called PFi now, for the entire year. So that was like one of our major milestones of like creating great strategy for pushing that out, and just like, what are we going to do to use the token as a marketing tool to pull people onto the platform in order to create these parties.
So the next thing I want to touch on, so what is the actual benefit? So if someone holds the token, what do they gain from that?
Yeah. So first off, like almost every single DeFi token out there, you get like governance votes shares.
Right.
We have something called the Ape Council, right? And the Ape Council is we also enable NFT holders to vote on these proposals as well. So the PFI also factors into that. You know, you get votes for your PFI.
Mm-hmm.
The next like important thing about PFI and kind of the important thing about the platform as a whole, because they work synonymously, is PFI allows you to eventually create parties once there's the demand to set a price for a party. And it also allows you to participate in certain features on the platform. Now, that might be a more premium governance model. That might be like access to NFTs before other parties have access to purchasing NFTs. So it just enables like the premium version, because like the best sort of way to run a platform for retention and for profitability is the freemium model. And I learned this at Riot Games pretty simply. And I think this this industry, and I know you're super into play to earn, right? And this entire industry is kind of built off of how fun and how much can you retain users once you finally get them to your website. And freemium plays into that heavy.
Yeah, definitely. I do like the idea of enhancing that experience for those that are holding the token or staking the token.
Yeah. So staking, the goal is to end up having real yield on that staking. So if you do your single-sided staking PFI token, I think like a certain percentage of the platform goes to that pool to reward users. Now, like that also happens for the NFT as well. Like it's just smart contract coded in. It's like you get paid out in PFI for you participating in the ecosystem. So that's one of the big goals. If you stake that PFI, you'll get a return on it that is correlated to the actual revenue of the platform, which is so much different than just these crazy hyperinflationary tokens, because that contract actually that's running that staking pool is actually taking the USDC that our platform generates and then market buying PFI with that to reward the holders. So it's less like, okay, we have 130 million PFI in our treasury and we're just going to give it out to everybody. It's more about how much value are we creating and how are we going to give that value back to everyone who's helping us grow.
Yeah, so you're probably not too familiar with Illuvium, but their system is pretty much exactly that.
Yeah, I watched a few of your YouTube videos preparing for this. I was gonna make so this is what I usually do for people who like are first interacting with the platform for the first time. Is like I'll make them a party. So whether that be a crypto influencer or a venture capital firm. So like I'll find their interests and I'll try to make them a party. But the issue is like Polygon stuff. So Illuvium, I don't think there's a pool on Polygon. So
No.
and other data earns that you're interested in. So I like couldn't really put together a good party for you.
No, that's right. I'm excited for like the leverage side of things, and we'll get into that later as well. But yeah, so that is one of the reasons that I've started really deeply looking at the project. Is I'm very interested in anything with real yield at the moment, and I really like kind of where your thing is heading, especially as some of the features that you've promised in your roadmap and white paper and stuff like that, as they start to come to fruition, I can seriously see the power in it all. So the next thing I want to talk about is providing liquidity. So I saw in your announcement, I don't quite know what the full plan is for that yet or how much of it is launched, but you guys are going to enable the ability to provide liquidity directly on your app?
Yeah. So basically how this works is we finally, for the longest time, Partify is just like kept to like it's our own like contracts and like our own like features that are on the platform. And the natural next step for us is to start working with third parties. So whether that's like a third party staking system or a yield generation site, and then integrating and whitelisting their contracts for our party users to interact with. So this is kind of our first step towards that that avenue. Is like we're using a company called Resonate or Revest Finance, and they do like FNFTs are called. So you get an NFT for your staking position, similar to providing liquidity on Uniswap. But those staking pools that we set up there will be ported into Partify, where users will be able to just stake their liquidity right from the site or using Revest site. Doesn't matter. Same transaction, same contract, and then be able to earn rewards on that.
Okay, so I have to go a bit deeper on this because this is actually really, really fascinating to me. The DeFi boom, and someone's told me recently, I think Classic Crypto mentioned it, that it's still happening. is that there are a lot of people that are actually going in and they're hopping between different DeFi staking protocols, and they'll be like, oh, invest here for one day to get this 5,000% return, take out that money, invest in the next one, and so on and so forth. And people
Yeah.
are managed to do that. Obviously, I, and probably yourself as well, don't really have time to do that ourselves. But with this system, what happens if, say, there's someone hosts a party and they've got the time to do all this sort of stuff and they're generating these crazy yields, and I jump onto their party and add my USDC to it? Will I be pretty much any rewards they pull out, will I be getting my own proportion as well? Will they be adding my USDC to that liquidity providing and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, correct. Like that's right on the head of the nail right there. It's like, if as long as we can have somebody or a group of people manage where the holdings of the group is going to be put, then everyone would get a similar return. So say there's like, for your example, right? Like say there's some guy out there who's just a wizard at finding all these like good, trustworthy pools, and they're able to pull in like, 10%, 20% a week. Like I would love to be in that person's party. It just sounds like someone knowledgeable. Right. And that's been a lot of the difficulty with scaling this thing too, just to go into like this growth sort of conversation that I'm always having with myself, is like a lot of the real value that we're creating on Partify requires users, really smart people, to come on and say like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get famous for this, and that's like kind of really tough to do because it's really difficult to find those people.
So we'll touch on, maybe return to some of that stuff a little bit later, but I have a lot I want to get to, a lot I want to learn about party finance. So the next one we'll talk about is, can you give us an in-depth analysis on the 2 NFT collections you guys currently have? And I noticed, I don't know if this is correct on the app, and we'll look at the app in a minute, but for the party punks, it still says 10,000 left to mint. Have any of them minted yet? Or
no, those aren't available at all, the party punks.
Okay.
But so our first like collection, we sold out the collection of Party Ape Real Yield NFTs last September. And we did like, I don't know, I want to say like 500 or maybe 1,000 of them.
There's 1,000.
Yeah, whatever. It's the Party Apes, and we put them out to everybody, just because like it was liquidity generation. Almost, we used those Party Apes to just totally bolster the liquidity pools. Which is like one of my favorite sayings, is liquidity is king in DeFi, right? So that's what we did. We ended up selling out those 1,000 Party Apes. Oh yeah, so it was 500 Matic, 500 ETH at that time. So we just sort of reshifted that entire collection, put it all onto Matic, onto Polygon, and then made them 3D, like released them out, airdropped them to everybody, which was pretty exciting. Lots of people like that. New update on the art. People love the art. So we did that, and then we're kind of waiting for this party punk sort of campaign to like reach maturity. The party punks are integral to the platform in the sense like they'll enable those more premium options. If you don't want to buy the PFI, if you don't want to hold however much PFI, you'd be able to buy the punk, or you'd get the punk for certain rewards on the platform that would enable those premium like services as well. So we're just kind of waiting for the platform to grow to the point where we need that extra little nudge to get people to use those more premium services, and then also be wanting to be known as like a classic OG of party finance. So my take to NFTs is much different than like most collection founders out there. And in my mind, you set a collection for mint, and then you provide the value for that to mint over time, instead of providing a bunch of lack of substance up front and then having a hyped out 5-minute sale. So we've done that. Like we minted out like in a few weeks when we did the original Party Apes. But I've kind of grown to despise that whole sort of fake hype thing.
Yeah. I think the entire market is really feeling the fake hype side of things nowadays. I see a lot of projects minting out, but they all fall way below the mid price and stuff like that. And it's all a bit of a game, but I mean, I enjoy games, even some that involve a couple bucks here or there, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like a slot machine, which is quite amusing to me, but it's not where real projects are born, in my opinion. So,
well, I think the meta always changes, right? And I think that's the important thing to keep in mind. It's like I studied data analytics in college. Like I'm super into the data. I follow the NFT data like crazy. And there's just like certain ways to go about things. Like if you're an art-based project who like wants to generate a lot of hype and like sort of generate a community, let's not call it hype, let's call it a community. And that's good for them, because like you can't really go out and fund a company saying, oh, we're going to create this amount of revenue because we're building this, right? If you're raising an NFT or selling an NFT or minting an NFT, you're raising money based on, the art itself. So it's like, it's different.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to take a quick look at the app right now. Wow. I did not expect it to do that. All right. So we're going to take a quick look at the app right now. So here is Party Finance. So I'm in the app. It's just app.party.finance /parties, I guess, in this case. And I've got a few parties of myself now I'm involved with. I just put
nice.
a couple bucks in just to kind of get my feel for the thing. I don't really have the liquidity to get super deep into it yet.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for a lot of the liquidity stuff to sort of get its sea legs before I jump super deep into it. But I'm definitely excited to start my own parties and get involved with my own community as well. So if you guys are listening, I'm going to be making stuff. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll mess around with it. You can see here Scoriox meme party. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about this page right here. So you've got the different parties. You can see percentage numbers. You can see top performing parties. You can create one. You can scroll across. You got Convention Wars. I don't think that's on anymore, but yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so we'll start with the top of the page. The top of the page displays the best 5 parties by ROI over the last week. Since it's been a pretty terrible week, there's not a lot up there. In fact, I'm pretty sure Fire Hustle, which is like another YouTube channel, I think, there's like they're only holding USDC, and because of that, they have 0% ROI, which is beating out most of the parties on the platform. So. But for the ones that are like up for the week, that's pretty impressive. Like DCA is up like 2.22, while I'm pretty sure, well, I think over the last week, we're up like 6% now on Ethereum as a whole. So I guess that's a little bit under, but that's a very conservative party. So I'd expect things like that. But the top shows like the top 5 by ROI. And then underneath is how you would sort by and find new parties. So currently the default mode is it's set to ROI, the best ROI by parties. So you can change it based on name, creation date, member count. So like the largest member one, and I'm pretty sure is DCA with DeFi Daddy. And that would come up if you sorted it that way. And Convention Wars is actually still on. I think like we're still waiting for a couple more parties to join that one. It should have a leaderboard there. Tomorrowland's in first.
Right. So what is that? They just like get highest ROI? What happens if you win the Convention Wars?
Yeah, so if you win the Convention Wars, you get 1 million PFI, which is worth around like $7,000 USDC. And then you also get like our Genesis Party Ape. There's a few different tiers of giveaway there. Like I'm pretty sure the second and third place get Party Apes, where the first one gets 1 million PFI, which is like a decent prize. $7,000. All you got to do is beat 6% ROI. That guy literally just held Bitcoin.
I think I could beat this. All right, I'll talk to you about joining this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can also create a party, and as you guys saw, I created mine. It took me like a minute. You do templates, add photos, and everything, which is all really awesome. Are there any big features you're looking to add to what we're looking at right here that are coming soon?
Sure. Well, I think a lot of the features. Well, when you create a party, we can go talk about governance models, right? And our main governance models are 4. There's 4 of them. So you have a monarchy, a democratic, a weighted democratic, and a republic. So a republic would be like everyone in the DAO in the party selects like senators or governors to like up to 7 of them to actually manage the portfolio. And then the weighted democratic would just be, however much you've deposited into the pool, you'll be able to have that much vote. And then the pure democratic is just like everybody in the pool or in the party can vote like equal to one another. And then monarchy is pretty self-explanatory. So so that'll be coming out with the creative party. But the features that are really going to change things are the stuff that actually happens once you're a party owner. You'll see as a party owner when you click on your party.
So if I click on my party right now, am I looking for something here or no? Not right now.
No, so Oh yeah, well, I'll mention just sort of the things that are coming up for what you'll see from this view.
Mm. Oh,
So
right. Sorry.
currently you have you purchased PFI and you have USDC. So I assume you invested $10 deposit. So you purchased PFI, which you're up 0.33% on already. You're welcome. And so eventually this page will show staking positions, NFTs held, and we'd have to whitelist those contracts in order to protect the user. But those are the next steps. I think the immediate next step actually is perpetual futures. So we're in the talks with the big three perpetual futures companies. If you know them, their names are Gains Network, Per Protocol, and GMX. I'm on the phone with them probably once a week. We're trying to figure out a good deal of which one we should go to. And which one we should enable, because obviously I'm sure you can see the potential for generating volume for third-party platforms here is pretty monumental. So especially with things like perpetual futures, where in the bear market, a lot of people are focusing their time towards those sorts of crypto investments. So that's the next thing, would probably be perpetual futures, which you trade from here. If you click go to party,
Where's that?
it's
There
on
we
there.
go.
So now you're actually in there. You'd be able to go to buy and sell, and then here it would open up a tab instead of just the swap. It would open up a tab and say, are you trying to trade perpetuals, NFTs, or stake? And these are our partners for those things. So eventually there's other DAO platforms that, because of their multi-sig abilities, they're able to interact with every single platform out there. And that was something we had a real hard conversation with each other about last month. We said to one another, do we want to open it up like that, where people can go out and parties can interact with any protocol in the entire world? And we realized it kind of it creates friction with part of our founding message. One of our core pillars of our production is no one needs to have custody of your tokens, and you should be able to be liquid in a DAO at all times. So I'm sure eventually we'll be able to develop the technology where you'll be able to be liquid in a DAO at all times, but also interact with all these platforms. But currently that's just not on the case. So we have to do these sprints for those different features.
Yeah. So I just picked up on something and I didn't actually realize this. Did you just mention NFTs?
Yeah, so that's one of the big goals, right? It's okay, I'm big. I used to be huge in NFTs. I lost 100 grand on NFTs at the beginning of the year, and
Sure. We've all
yeah,
been there, trust me.
so I have all these friends who founded these alpha groups and whatnot, right? And so that made me think what if an alpha group was a DAO? Instead of you joining an alpha group on Discord, you join an alpha group on an application where no one could front run one another. You're moving your capital together. That's incredible power if you think about it. Imagine you have a NFT collection, you bought it yesterday, you minted it yesterday, and they've done 30 ETH in volume, and then all of a sudden this party just hits that has 150 ETH just in their party. Boom, game over. Your NFT collection is hit like a truck. So previously, the alternative would be you join a Discord and everyone says oh, check this out, I love this NFT, we're gonna try to buy some and move the floor up, whatever, blah blah blah, and everyone goes 2 days early and then dumps on each other. It's kind of rude, but that's just kind of the nature of the game. And if you're not doing that, you're losing out. But in PFI, it's the exact opposite. You can't front run. You would, instead of you guys having to go to OpenSea or what's that other one I used to, Gem, or Genie, instead of you guys all going there individually, you're going there together and bringing your capital all in the same place, which that also ties in really deeply to the core reason why I started PartyFi. And the core reason is individuals, your sovereignty needs to be protected. So over the past 100 years, we've seen these giant financial failures of these big banks of Wall Street and of the treasuries running everyone's economies, everyone's governments. And we've seen failures by them from the top down. So why don't we flip banking on its head and make sovereignty for individual groups? And that's what parties are. They are sovereignty for individual groups. So eventually you'll be able to give out peer-to-peer loans, purchase any on-chain asset. And as all the transactions in this world starts moving towards on-chain, you'll be able to interact with whatever financial transaction you need to from your own sovereign bank instead of using some multinational out there in New York.
Yeah, it's certainly changing the game. So the other thing we need to talk about is, do you have any current ideas on how you could hold liquidity while also holding an NFT, right? Because that starts to get really, really tricky, obviously, because NFTs aren't inherently liquid. Although
Yeah.
some people are making platforms that do make it a little bit more interesting. But do you have any ideas and ways around that, or maybe a new structure where people that invest have to lock for 30 days or anything like that, or are you completely against that?
Yeah, no, I have about like 10 different strategies, I think. Like that's probably an exaggeration, probably more like four. But yeah, like NFTs pose a really significant question of like how do you enable that custody when that asset isn't necessarily liquid. And I think one of the main the best solution I've sort of come up with in the last few months is like having the party assign it a value as soon as it joins the party. So you instead of like OpenSea saying how much it's worth, you could think of it more like insurance. Um, and like your party would insure that NFT's value. So you purchased it, for example, 500 USDC. You purchased an NFT for 500 USDC. If you guys want to insure that or provide liquidity against that, you would have 500 of whatever asset inside of your party to kind of insure that. Now anyone can withdraw their position against it. So that's a really good solution that kind of like makes everyone happy. And then otherwise you can just like multi-sig it and like do the weird thing where everyone would have to vote out if you wanted to sell it or whatnot. Or we could like end up like taking floor prices from OpenSea and just have everyone's NFT be worth the floor, and then give people the payouts against that. Basically take their NFT into our custody and have it to sell against that if they want to leave their positions. But at the end of the day, the first one I think is the most decentralized way to do it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love the way your brain works, that you're already thinking a lot of these things before they're even like fully in motion. But like how much of these features are actually under construction right now? Obviously you're talking with a lot of futures exchanges, so that definitely counts. But how many
Yeah.
of these other features like liquidity and all the rest of it?
Yeah. So NFTs, like honestly, pretty far ways out. Like I said, I study the data pretty well for NFTs. I don't think we're going to see like a lot of hype in the NFT market for like at least a few more months. It would take like a very revolutionary like sort of platform to sort of shift and make things go the other way again. I mean, Bored Ape and what's his name, Beeple really sent it off last year. So we kind of need like a black swan event like that to happen again for NFTs. So like I said, perpetuals is very much in the works. I'd say the other big thing we're currently working on, and what's taken up a lot of our time, is we were on the kind of the front line of implementing this new EIP, which allows your contracts to be like permanently upgradable, adding whatever features you want onto them, no bite size limit, meaning that you're basically able to build whatever your heart can desire. And that's been a very new, like, sort of, I don't know, advancement in the Ethereum ecosystem and the smart contract ecosystem. And because it's so new, like we kind of, we're able to not only implement that EIP, but we were also able to like work on it and expand it. So that took about like 2 months of our time to kind of build out such a robust system that would allow like ultimate upgradability to the platform. But yeah, like I said, like we have the perpetuals going on, and we're definitely implementing like more staking bearish side tools for DAOs, right? Because like you're not going to go trade altcoins when we don't know where Bitcoin's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, that's definitely the big thing I'm waiting on is futures and things, because at the moment shorting the market is probably the safer bet in a way. So that's an interesting side of things. So the next thing I want to talk about is your white paper mentioned that providing liquidity as a large group is
Yeah.
better than providing liquidity as a solo player.
Right.
And I know a bit about providing liquidity, kind of how it works and things like that, but I don't think I know as much as yourself. Can you explain a bit about how yield farming kind of works and how pooled funds would be better than being as a lone wolf sort of a thing?
Yeah, I think in the white paper we call it green staking. And green staking, like I coined that term about a year ago when we talk about DAOs providing liquidity. So green staking enables a few things. So green staking enables the amount of the liquidity pool to be larger under someone's ownership. So that increases the percent payout, like very marginally, but enough where you might notice it if you put in enough. And then the other thing is it takes one transaction to add that liquidity. Whereas say you have 100 people with $1,000 and they each have to do like a $25 transaction to put it in. Boom, we have $25,000, 100 people, sorry, $2,500 in transaction fees. Whereas opposed to the party staking on their own, that would just be one transaction for $25. So we're already saving like $2,475 just by using a party for those liquidity positions.
Definitely. Do you know if it helps? Because I get this question a lot from people that are new at liquidity pools and things like that. Because we deal with a little bit of that with Illuvium. Do you know if being in a larger group helps much with impermanent loss or not really?
Okay, well, it's a tough question. I think that question is more about like the psychology of retail investors rather than just like how much is in a liquidity pool. Because like you can liquidity mine and like generate like 5 million in liquidity, and technically you're gonna have like less front running on that pair and whatnot. So like maybe, but at the end of the day, like impermanent loss matters a lot about like price of the token over time. So like if the token price goes and shoots down, it doesn't matter how many people are in the pool or how much money is in the pool. Like you're still gonna get like a little bit when you, much less when you leave that liquidity position than when you entered it. So I honestly like the general answer would be yes, like it would help a little bit with impermanent loss, but not really.
That's a good answer. I like it. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about gas fees. And you already half explained it, but I want to just make sure I've got it right. How do gas fees really work with the platform? Obviously, you're paying a gas fee to add your funds to the pool, to the party, so to speak. And it's obviously on Matic, so it doesn't really cost much. And when the party themselves the monarch takes the USDC and buys Bitcoin with it, is it still just the one transaction fee for that monarch to move the entire party's funds?
Yeah, monarchs pay gas fees. So basically, yeah, but you're right though. Like it's not like, since it's all consolidated into the party contract, so you're just moving it out of that contract and interacting with that contract at the same time. So yeah, it's just that one transaction. So the person who actually makes that transaction go through, we call that an external payable wallet, and that is the person that actually pays the gas fee. So in future governance models, it's still going to come down to one person. But on Matic, everyone has a couple Matic on their MetaMask. So at the end of the day, it's not that crazy.
So if your party itself bought some Matic for the party, you can't use that Matic to pay for gas.
No.
That'd be pretty wild, wouldn't it?
That would be really cool though. Here, I'm gonna write that down.
Like if that was possible, that'd be interesting in a lot of different ways, especially if you guys built some of this stuff on the Ethereum ecosystem, because that would be reason enough alone to invest your stuff on party for Ethereum, for ERC tokens, right?
I honestly don't know. I don't know why that wouldn't be doable. DeFi Daddy's on here saying that was on the agenda at one stage. So maybe it'll be back on the agenda soon. We're like a really small team. We've gone through like all the different stages. Like at one point in the company, we had around 16 employees, and now we're like closer to 6. So, okay.
Are you looking to expand?
Sorry?
Are you looking to expand?
Not currently. I've found hiring to be one of the most difficult parts of this job. And every single person that has joined the company has come out of the woodwork and approached us. Every single person that I've approached has ended up like not really cutting it. So we've gotten very lucky with the people that we work with currently, and we're very spoiled to have these wonderful people. Like the 6 that work on the company, on the platform, are just like some of the greatest, smartest people I've ever met in my life. So we're very fortunate to have just like kind of met them along the way.
Yeah, definitely. So currently you guys are working off the Matic ecosystem with a lot of wrap tokens and things like that. And I looked through the list. I'm going to briefly look through it now. it's got a pretty good selection, right? You got Ethereum and your Ethereum Bitcoin, which is your two big ones. USDC. You've even got the original Luna, not Luna Classic. Oh no, the new Luna. I definitely won't trade that. You got the Elon coin. That's pretty funny. Sol and things like that. So you've got a pretty good range of tokens. What sort of plans do you have for multi-chain type things? Because obviously, in my case in particular, I'm looking at the Ethereum ecosystem for the most part, especially with things like IMX, Ethereum, and ILV are some of my bigger preferences among a few smaller coins. But what are you kind of looking at when in terms of multi-chain stuff?
Yeah. So DeFi Daddy just mentioned in the chat a little bit. You can trade literally every single Polygon pair on Partify. So that was like one of our main driving things when we created the platform. Other DAO platforms, DAO generation platforms, like they use oracles from Chainlink, and you can trade like the 40 different tokens on Chainlink. Screw that. Like, let's decentralize this. You can interact with your pairs. Doesn't matter. Like, if you're on that chain, and like I'll mention multi-chain after this. But if you're on that chain currently on Partify, which is Polygon, you could get any pair on that. If when we hit ETH, you will get any pair on ETH. Like, it's literally, the world is limitless towards you as the party owner or a party member. So like multi-chain, we're currently like partnered with a company called Bridge. Bridge allows people to deposit into parties from any token on any chain. So say you have ETH on Ethereum and you want to deposit into a party on Polygon, no problem. We won't even tell you that you need to change your network or anything like that. Bridge is like super far ahead of the game with this sort of stuff, like super bright people. And we're really lucky to be one of the first projects to like actually implement this tech. But that's going to like change the multi-chain sort of realm. And the thing that makes me so bullish about this is, since Bridge is able to do that with deposits, who's not to say that there's not a company out there that's currently working on a multi-chain exchange that doesn't care at all about where the token is and where the pair is. So if we're going to be able to deposit into a party with any token on any network, how soon will it be until we can buy any token on any network for a party without having to bridge to ETH or Optimism or Arbitrum or BSC? So like currently our consensus is on the board at Partify is just kind of like, we're going to write out the Matic thing and we're going to become like a huge name in Matic. And then one of our partners is one day going to make that discovery that just makes multi-chain possible. And I'm willing to bet that it happens before 2025, because that's like our schedule. We're going to be hot and happening before the next bull freaking cycle comes. And we have multi-chain by then, game over.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I definitely think multi-chain is coming, and I really think it's a lot closer than some people think. And you're going to see it like kick off a bull run or something ridiculous, like I definitely think it's going to happen. The next thing I want to talk about is the DAO side of things. So obviously you guys have focused yourself towards helping out DAOs and things like that quite a bit. How does it actually integrate with DAO? So for example, if I started a DAO and I had an NFT project and stuff like that, would I just use your platform and be like, okay, guys, I've created a party. If you want to get onto it, here it is. Or do you have other systems for them to more properly or more deeply integrate in with a DAO's infrastructure?
Like token gating? Like
I don't know what that is.
So token gating is the concept that you like can't join a Discord unless you have an NFT, right? So like you can't join this group because it's only for Bored Ape Yacht Club holders. That's something we've already enabled on the platform. So like you can't do it currently for parties, but like we have that foundation ready to like add to everybody once we have that NFT sort of sprint going on. So like currently you can join the Ape Council with your party ape. And that like is the foundation for all other parties being token gated. So that's a big part of DAOs currently today and their ecosystems is like, hey, you need to own this NFT to be part of our community, and so that needs to be reflected on the platform. And then also the flip side, it doesn't have to be an NFT either. It could be a token or something along those lines.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's really interesting hearing you talk about all these features that you have ready to go in a lot of senses, but it's just not the right timing. You got to get everything right, get everyone on the platform first and things like that. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that there aren't too many people on there yet. that does bring my question for like, what are your plans for marketing, either now or in the future?
Yeah, so like that goes into like kind of what you mentioned earlier. It's like we have all these things half baked, and I learned that, and like I hope I don't break an NDA here, but I learned that at Riot Games. It's like it's important to have a bunch of half baked things. You don't know where the market's going to be tomorrow. You don't know where it's going to be 3 months from now. And so like if you're 25% towards the finish line or 50% towards the finish line, and something happens where you just like, this is hot, hot, hot. We need to make it happen right now. Like our parties need this, right? That has to be able to get done quick. And so like we spent a lot, like I mentioned upgrading the party contracts earlier, like that had to be done because like there's going to be a day like where we just have to boom, boom, implement this half baked sort of thing that we already have. And then everyone's sort of using it and excited about using it. And so like, that's really important to like have when you're thinking about growth. And like you asked about marketing. I think more about the product when it comes towards marketing. Like the best, greatest companies, best tech companies that have ever lived are product focused marketing companies, meaning that like you're building your product out for your current user base and you're increasing retention. One of my favorite questions to ask people is like, what do you think is a better metric of a platform success? Retained users with 150 users or 50,000 users that used it for one day in one transaction? And because it's a lot harder to get a user back once they leave, right? And that's the biggest thing you got to worry about. It's like, okay, we're going to build this out for what we know and what's conservative. Like it's tough to say conservative in the DeFi world because like at the end of the day, we're still like compared to traditional tech, Web 2, we're still moving extremely fast. But at the end of the day, conservative is just being like very careful about where you place your next steps. And we learned that lesson the real hard way. Like at the beginning, like we did a lot of like marketing campaigns with random influencers, like namely BitBoy and other big ones. And we ended up running through like a couple 100,000 really fast. And, we looked back on it and said like, wow, can we even track like where that money went? Like what was our spend for conversion? What was our amount of users that we converted to the site, like just from that video? We don't know, right? And we never will know. So to us, we kind of looked at that and said, okay, let's cut that for a bit until we have like a real good strategy where we'll be able to put in $1 and see what we get out. And I'm happy to announce that like I've been working closely with a few companies that you guys should check out. One's called Quest 3, the other one's called Layer 3. .xyz on both of them, and they're like task-based sites. So basically they've enabled tracking on-chain conversions, which has never been done before in crypto marketing or DeFi Web3 marketing. You're able to actually make user profiles and track conversions to the finish line, which will be able to tell you if you put in $1, you're going to get this much conversion out. And that is going to change the way people market forever. And I'm really happy to be one of the first people to do that. And like also not just implementing their product, but having a real say in what they're going to be developing next.
Yeah. It sounds like you've got your finger on the pulse far more than myself. The closest I've come to that is being here right now. Just 1 second. Sorry about that. So the next thing we'll talk about is... Oh, where was I at? All right, I think we've covered a lot of this stuff already. So,
well, I also want to mention real quick, DeFi Daddy just mentioned this.
Yeah.
I just brushed over it. But like this is a big thing that'll be out on our platform really soon. Probably like we're aiming for the end of October. Is like referral campaigns. So this is a fun story. I hacked my way into meeting the founder of GMX. If you guys are familiar with GMX, Perpetual Futures platform on Arbitrum.
I actually use it a lot more than you'd think.
Yeah, so I was fascinated by them. So they've done 60 million in fees this year, and that's just insane. That's like ridiculous. Their platform went up in September of last year, right? And to have that much traction that quickly just made me super fascinated. So I went to their Telegram and pretended to be like a journalist, and I messaged the mod. I said like, can I get like 15 minutes with like one of your devs? I just want to ask them questions. So I like got 15 minutes with X, who turns out to be the founder of GMX. And I asked him, I said, how'd you get to 60 million in fees so fast? Like you have no venture backing. you have like 3 years of like basically being a ghost on social media. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you start generating more money than anyone could ever imagine. And he said to me, it's very simple. We created a good referral campaign. And so that's like our next big thing is like on-chain contract track conversions via a referral campaign to like actually get people to make money by not only bringing more users onto the platform, but by enabling more volume inside of parties. So like we have a pretty deep and like, I don't know, deep and complex sort of strategy on how we're going to roll out that referral system.
Yeah. Keep me in the loop.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of the perfect guy for it. I wonder how much GMX referral you've made.
Not much. I didn't even know they had a referral system. Although,
Oh,
ironically, I found GMX through Chico Crypto, probably because he had a referral system, right? So it all comes full circle, doesn't it?
right. And like, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like all of a sudden, if your referral campaign is paying out people very well, like you're able to access outlets that you never thought you could have before, just because like you're basically like employing people at that point. Right. So that's one of the things we're super excited about.
Yeah. I don't try to encourage my audience and stuff into the crypto side too much. I talk
Uh-huh.
mostly about Illuvium and that token and stuff like that. When it comes to leverage and things, I don't really steer too clear, but I don't really focus in on that much on the channel itself. But party finance feels a little bit more like spot, so I might talk about it a bit and definitely deal with some of that stuff. So I'm excited to see where that leads and where that leads you guys as well. So yeah, very excited to see how that goes. We do have a question from the audience that was really interesting. So Paolo asks if the contract gets exploited, his transactions protected from the ledger. Could the exploiter have access to your funds? So, do you want to answer that quickly? So, I think what he's asking is if if your contract, I guess the party finance contract gets exploited, will they have access to Paolo's funds or not?
Yeah. So basically, there's like the only way the contract could get exploited is if someone was able to access the indexed contract and then mint new LP tokens to themselves, and then they'd be able to take. That's not possible. There's no way that's possible. One, because like we use something called Party Factory. So Party Factory is like the mothership of all of the party contracts. Party Factory enables these contracts to like set external wallets that are the ones creating these subsets of the original contract. And because of that, it's like, you know, there's only one person who could ever actually interact with that contract, and it's the person who created the party or has been delegated to manage the party. So we've been audited by Certic. We also have another audit coming from one of like the more famous Solidity devs out there. His name's Nick Mudgeon. We're really big fans of him here. Like, for those of you who follow the EIP sort of ecosystem, he's like very well known. He was the guy who he invented signing, I think, Nick Mudgeon. So like, you know, when you're on OpenSea and you like have to sign in order to use OpenSea, I'm pretty sure he's the guy who invented that. So like he's doing like a much more in-depth audit than Certic or Omniskia could ever do, you know, just because like his IQ is 200 points higher than anyone on any of those teams. So we're really excited about getting that audit back. And yeah, there's really no way it could get exploited. I know DeFi Daddy mentioned in the chat, if you've been looking in the chat, paying attention to the chat.
Yeah, a little
The
bit.
only way that people could ever really exploit it is by creating a token pool and then like basically purchasing the liquidity inside of that pool and then having that be a malicious token. It's a big workaround, but at the end of the day, like we safeguard against that. Like we have a $15,000 liquidity filter, which only allows people to purchase tokens via parties that have more than $15,000 worth of liquidity in their pools, which like is a very big safeguard against scammers like that.
That's good. Yeah, that's good to hear that you guys have considered all that. And that was actually one of the first questions I asked at the Aus Crypto Con is, have you guys been audited? Because I've been in enough projects that have skipped the auditing phase of their project, and it never ever ends well. So just knowing that you guys are conscious of it is really all that matters to me, because it's a big thing in this space for sure.
Well, there's things to be budget friendly on, and an audit is just not one of those things, right? And like we've been budget friendly elsewhere. Like we're super like conservative with our spend on marketing nowadays, and like the thing is, when it comes to the actual security of your platform as a whole, you have to go find the best of the best and get the best security advice you can. Like, otherwise, are you really looking out for your investors? Like, because if you're not doing those things and finding people who are experts in blockchain security and finding people that are better than just like typing it out on Google, right? That's the main thing where I think we've separated ourselves now that we have Nick Mudgeon like doing this next audit is like, okay, we went past just saying crypto audits companies, right? Or going with the name brand ones. Like, we took that a step further and found someone that we all regard as a genius from the engineering perspective.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for all this, AMA, and everything you've said today. It's been a really big help in helping me understand a platform, kind of where it's heading, and where the sorts of things that it can really do, and really the ways it could change DeFi, especially in me getting my friends into DeFi without teaching them too much. But the last question I have for you is, where do you see party finance in 5 years? Like, kind of what is this great arching vision that you see the platform being?
I kind of mentioned it at the beginning, is like, let's flip like the banking world on its head, provide like consumer sovereignty. Like, I think that's really big. Like, it's such a grand vision that it kind of like sounds scary. It's like, you state that question and that like declaration basically that I just said is like, flip the traditional banking on its head and provide consumer sovereignty. Like, that is a very radical statement, and we have been like kind of controlled. Our economies have been controlled by like very large pools of money, and that's all bank is. It's a very large pool of money. But I think if we're able to give the tools to these smaller like consumer pools, like, we can actually find a much more stable economy worldwide. And that's what's exciting about DAOs, not just PartyFi DAOs, but like, that's what's exciting about DAOs in general. It's like, it's just whole different way to sort of think about these systems that have been around for as long as we can remember, since before we were born. And then hopefully, maybe if we're able to convert on that vision, and not just us, but every other DAO company out there who's like working for these decentralized ideologies, if we're able to convert on that, I think we're going to make the world a better place.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyways, thanks heaps for joining me, Mr. Tim B. It's been a pleasure. We'll definitely have to catch up sometime in the future. We'll also talk about the convention wars and stuff just after we exit going live. So that'll be really good. So thanks heaps for joining me. Thanks chat for being with us and giving us questions and talking through us as well through this, especially you, DeFi Daddy, of course. And yeah, I hope you guys like the project. I'll cover it a bit more in the future. It's one of the first DeFi projects I've really looked at the channel. And you guys know I'm all about real yield, and that is why I'm here. I don't think I'd be looking at party finance the way I would be unless it had real yield, and it's got a lot of that things with the staking and its own rev divs and things like that as well. So I hope you guys can get as excited for me as I am about this project. So yeah, anything else you want to say before we end the stream?
Yeah, no, just thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. I love talking about this. I'm very, very passionate about it, and I love sharing. So thanks for having me, and thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you go follow PartyFi on Twitter at party_fi, and we'll see you in the Discord.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.